start the recording. Okay, so our Wednesday readings will be covering the Constitution of the United States of America, analysis and interpretation. And the Constitution is annotated. Interesting. Okay. All right, and we will start on page. Wait, does this even have page 3? I'm going to go ahead and start. Okay. The Constitution of the United States of America. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Article 1, Section 1. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and House of Representatives. Section 2. The House of Representatives shall be composed of members chosen every second year by the people of the several states, and the electors in each state shall have the qualifications requisite for electors of the most numerous branch of the state legislature. No person shall be a representative who shall not have attained to the age of 25 years and been 7 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state in which he shall be chosen. Representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states, which may be included within this union, according to their respective numbers, which shall be determined by adding to the whole number of free persons, including those bound to service for a term of years, and excluding Indians not taxed, 3/5 of all other persons. The actual enumeration shall be made within 3 years after the first meeting of the Congress of the United States, and within every subsequent term of 10 years, in such manner as they shall by law direct. The number of representatives shall not exceed 1 for every 30,000, but each state shall have at least 1 representative. And until such enumeration shall be made, the state of New Hampshire shall be entitled to choose 3, Massachusetts 8, Rhode Island and Providence Plantations 1, Connecticut 5, New York 6, New Jersey 4, Pennsylvania 8, Delaware 1, Maryland 6, Virginia 10, North Carolina 5, South Carolina 5, and Georgia 3. When vacancies happen in the representation from any state, the executive authority thereof shall issue writs of election to fill such vacancies. The House of Representatives shall choose their speaker and other officers, and shall have the sole power of impeachment. I think this is the one. I don't know. I'm going to have to wait and see, but I think there is a place where it also says, like, for every so many people, you need to have 1 representative. But let's see, 1 for every 30,000. And it says it shall not exceed 1 for every 30,000, but it never states that you need to have 1 representative for every 30,000 people, which is why we're not equally represented in the House and the Senate. Anyways, Section 3. The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, chosen by the legislature thereof for 6 years, and each senator shall have 1 vote. Immediately after they shall be assembled in consequence of the first election, they shall be divided as equally as may be into 3 classes. The seats of the senators of the first class shall be vacated at the expiration of the second year, of the second class at the expiration of the 4th year, and of the third class at the expiration of the 6th year, so that 1/3 may be chosen every second year, and if vacancies happen by resignation or otherwise during the recess of the legislature of any state, the executive thereof may make temporary appointments until the next meeting of the legislature, which shall then fill such vacancies. No person shall be a senator who shall not have attained to the age of 30 years and been 9 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state for which he shall be chosen. The Vice President of the United States shall be President of the Senate, but shall have no vote unless they be equally divided. The Senate shall choose their other officers and also a President pro tempore in the absence of the Vice President, or when he shall exercise the office of President of the United States. The Senate shall have the sole power to try all impeachments. When sitting for that purpose, they shall be on oath or affirmation. When the President of the United States is tried, the Chief Justice shall preside, and no person shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of the members present. Judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than to remove from office and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States. But the party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subject to indictment, trial, judgment, and punishment according to law. Section 4. The times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislator thereof. But the Congress may at any time by law make or alter such regulations, except as to the place of choosing senators. The Congress shall assemble at least once in every year, and such meeting shall be on the first Monday in December, unless they shall, by law, appoint a different day. Section 5. Each house shall be the judge of the elections, returns, and qualifications of its own members, and a majority of each shall constitute a quorum to do business, but a smaller number may adjourn from day to day and may be authorized to compel the attendance of absent members in such manner and under such penalties as each house may provide. Each house may determine the rules of its proceedings, punish its members for disorderly behavior, and with the concurrence of 2/3 expel a member. Each house shall keep a journal of its proceedings, and from time to time publish the same, excepting such parts as may in their judgment require secrecy. And the yeas and nays of the members of either house on any question shall, at the desire of 1/5 of those present, be entered on the journal. Neither house, during the session of Congress, shall, without the consent of other, adjourn for more than 3 days, nor at any other place than that in which the 2 houses shall be sitting. Section 6. The senators and representatives shall receive a compensation for their services to be ascertained by law and paid out of the Treasury of the United States. They shall in all cases, except treason, felony, and breach of the peace, be privileged from arrest during their attendance at the session of their respective houses, and in going to and returning from the same, and for any speech or debate in either house. They shall not be questioned in any other place. No senator or representative shall, during the time for which he was elected, be appointed to any civil office under the authority of the United States, which shall have been created, or the emoluments whereof shall have been increased during such time, and no person holding any office under the United States shall be a member of either house during his continuance in office. Section 7. All bills for raising revenue shall originate in the House of Representatives, but the Senate may propose or concur with amendments as on other bills. Every bill shall have passed the House of Representatives, and the Senate shall, before it become a law, be presented to the President of the United States. If he approve, he shall sign it. But if not, he shall return it, with his objections to that House in which it shall have originated, who shall enter the objections at large on their journal and proceed to consider it. If after such reconsideration 2/3 of that House shall agree to pass the bill, it shall be sent, together with the objections, to the other House, by which it shall likewise be reconsidered. And if approved by 2/3 of that House, it shall become a law. But in any such cases, the votes of both Houses shall be determined by yeas and nays, and the names of the persons voting for and against the bill shall be entered on the journal of each House respectively. If any bill shall not be returned by the President within 10 days, Sundays excepted, after it shall have been presented to him, the same shall be a law in like manner as if he had signed it, unless the Congress, by their adjournment, prevent its return, in which case it shall not be a law. Every order, resolution, or vote to which the concurrence of the Senate and House of Representatives may be necessary, except on a question of adjournment, shall be presented to the President of the United States, and before the same shall take effect, shall be approved by him, or being disapproved by him, shall be repassed by 2/3 of the Senate and House of Representatives, according to the rules and limitations prescribed in the case of a bill. Section 8. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and exercises, to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imposts, and exercises shall be uniform throughout the United States. To borrow money on the credit of the United States, to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with the Indian tribes, to establish an uniform rule of naturalization and uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States, to coin money, regulate the value thereof and of foreign coin, and fix the standard of weights and measures, to provide for the punishment of counterfeiting the securities and current coin of the United States, to establish post offices and post roads, to promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries, to constitute tribunals inferior to the Supreme Court, to define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the law of nations, to declare war, grant letters of marque and reprisal, and make rules concerning captures on land and water, to raise, To raise and support armies, but no appropriation of money to that use shall be for a longer term than 2 years. To provide and maintain the Navy, to make rules for the government and regulation of the land and naval forces, to provide for calling forth the militia, to execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrections, and repel invasions. Seems they got rid of the militia altogether. To provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia, and for governing such part of them as may be employed in the service of the United States, reserving to the states respectively the appointment of the officers and the authority of training the militia according to the discipline prescribed by Congress. Whoa, wait a second. So, wait, was our government supposed to be helping build our militia here? And then if we needed them to go fight for the country, then they would take from the militia? Is that what they're saying? Because it kind of sounds like that's what they're saying. To exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district, not exceeding 10 miles square, as may, by secession of particular states and the acceptance of Congress, become the seat of government of the United States, and to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislator of the state in which the same shall be, for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings, and to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution of foregoing powers, and all other powers vested by this Constitution of the Government of the United States, or in any department or officer thereof. Yeah, I gotta look into that militia. Like, I hope they talk about that, because I would like an analysis on that one. Section 9. Does anybody have anything that they want to say so far? Any comments? Okay. Section 9. The immigration or importation of such persons as any of the states now existing shall think proper to admit shall not be prohibited by the Congress prior to the year 1808, but a tax or duty may be imposed on such importation, not exceeding $10 for each person. The privilege of the right of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when, in cases of rebellion or invasion, the support safety may require it. No bill of attainder or ex post facto law shall be passed. No capitation or other direct tax shall be laid unless in proportion to the census or enumeration herein before directed to be taken. No tax or duty shall be laid on articles exported from any state. No preference shall be given by any regulation of commerce or revenue to the ports of one state over those of another, nor shall vessels bound to or from one state be obligated to enter, clear, or pay duties to another. No money shall be drawn from the Treasury, but in consequence of appropriations made by law. And a regular statement and account of the receipts and expenditures of all public money shall be published from time to time. No title of nobility shall be granted by the United States, and no person holding any office of profit or trust under them shall, without the consent of Congress, except of any present emolument, office, or title of any kind whatever from any king, prince, or foreign state. Well, they totally went against that one. Section 10. No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque or reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts, pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility. No state shall, without the consent of the Congress, lay any imposts or duties or imports or exports except what may be absolutely necessary for executing its inspection laws and the net produce of all duties and imposts laid by any state or import or export or on import or export shall be for the use of the Treasury of the United States, and all such laws shall be subject to the revision and control of the Congress. No state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay any duty of tonnage, keep troops, or ships of war in time of peace, enter into any agreement or compact with another state or with a foreign power, or engage in war unless actually invaded, or in such imminent danger as will not admit for delay. We're being invaded. Illegal immigration, we're being invaded. China's sending people over. Mexico's sending people over. Like, this is just crazy. It's like, screw the Constitution, people. Let's just do what we want. All right, anybody have anything to say about that? Okay. Article 2 then, Section 1. Okay, so all that was under Article 1, all those 10 sections. So now we're coming to Article 2, Section 1. The executive power shall be vested in a President of the United States of America. He shall hold his office during the term of 4 years, and together with the Vice President, chosen for the same term, be elected as follows. Each state shall appoint in such manner as the legislator thereof may direct a number of electors equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in the Congress. But no senator or representative or person holding an office of trust or profit under the United States shall be appointed an elector. The electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for 2 persons, of whom one at least shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves. And they shall make a list of all the persons voted for and of the number of votes for each, which list they shall sign and certify and transmit, sealed to the seat of the government of the United States, directed to the President of the Senate. The President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and House of Representatives, open all the certificates, and the votes shall then be counted. The person having the greatest number of votes shall be the President. If such number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed, and if there be more than one who have such majority and have an equal number of votes, then the House of Representatives shall immediately choose by ballot one of them for president. And if no person have a majority, then from the 5 highest on the list, the said House shall, in like manner, choose the president. But in choosing the president, the votes shall be taken by states, the representation from each state having 1 vote. A quorum of this purpose shall consist of a member or members of 2/3 of the states, and a majority of all the states shall be necessary to a choice. In every case, after the choice of the president, the person having the greatest number of votes of the electors shall be the vice president. But if there should remain 2 or more who have equal votes, the Senate shall choose from them by ballot the vice president. The Congress may determine the time of choosing the electors and the day on which they shall give their votes, which day shall be the same throughout the United States. No person except a natural-born citizen or a citizen of the United States at the time of the adoption of this Constitution shall be eligible to the office of President. Neither shall any person be eligible to that office who shall not have attained to the age of 35 and been 14 years a resident within the United States. In case of the removal of the president from office or of his death, resignation, or inability to discharge the powers and duties of the said office, the same shall devolve on the vice president, and the Congress may by law provide for the case of removal, death, resignation, or inability, both of the president and the vice president, declaring what officer shall then act as president, and such officer shall act accordingly until the disability be removed or a president shall be elected. I'm surprised they haven't pulled this for Joe Biden. He is so incompetent. The president shall, at stated times, receive for his services a compensation which shall neither be increased or diminished during the period for which he shall have been elected, and he shall not receive within that period any other emolument from the United States or any of them. Before he enter on the execution of his office, he shall take the following oath or affirmation. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. Okay, so for those of you that were here when we read the volume 1 for The Art of Passing the Buck, I think it was one of the appendix where they described how when the Bible was printed in English and handed out, everybody was like, wait a second, we're not supposed to swear or make an oath on anything. And the church came over the top and said, or was it, I think it was the church and the king was like, okay, fine, we won't ask you to take an oath, but we'll just ask for an affirmation. And they're like, well, wait a second, affirmation is just a fancy word for oath. So I find that funny that they say, I do solemnly swear or affirm, that they stuck in the or affirm. Interesting. Okay, Section 2. The President shall be Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of the several states when called into the actual service of the United States. He may require the opinion in writing of the principal officer in each of the executive departments upon any subject relating to the duties of their respective offices. And he shall have power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. He shall have power by and with the advice and consent of the Senate to make treaties, provide 2/3 of the senators concur, and he shall nominate, and by and with the advice and consent of the Senate shall appoint ambassadors, other public ministers and counsels, judges of the Supreme Court, and all other officers of the United States, whose appointments are not herein otherwise provided for, and which shall be established by law. But the Congress may by law vest the appointment of such inferior officers as they think proper in the President alone, in the courts of law, or in the heads of departments. The President shall have power to fill up all vacancies that may happen during the recess of the Senate by granting commissions which shall expire at the end of their next session. Section 3. And by the way, if you guys ever want to pop in with a comment, just go ahead and unmute and start talking. Section 3, he shall from time to time give to the Congress information of the state of the Union and recommend to their consideration such measures as he shall judge necessary and expedient. He may on extraordinary occasions convey both houses on either of them, and in case of disagreement between them with respect to the time of adjournment, he may adjourn them to such time as he shall think proper. He shall receive ambassadors and other public ministers. He shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed, and shall commission all the officers of the United States. Section 4. The President, Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. Hello, Biden did bribery and high crimes and misdemeanors. Well, at least his son did the misdemeanors. Okay. Article 3, Section 1, the judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court, and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. The judges, both of the Supreme and inferior courts, shall hold their offices during good behavior, and shall, at stated times, receive for their services a compensation which shall not be diminished during their continuance in office. Section 2. The judicial power shall extend to all cases in law and equity arising under this Constitution, the laws of the United States, and treaties made or which shall be made under their authority, to all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers and councils, to all cases of admiralty and maritime jurisdiction, to controversies to which the United States shall be a party, to controversies between two or more states, between a state and citizens of another state, between citizens of different states, between citizens of the same state claiming lands under grants of different states, and between a state or the citizens thereof and foreign states, citizens, or subjects. In all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers and councils, and those in which a state shall be party, the Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction. In all the other cases before mentioned, the Supreme Court shall have appellate jurisdiction, both as to law and fact, with such exceptions and under such regulations as the Congress shall make. The trial of all crimes, except in cases of impeachment, shall be by jury, and such trial shall be held in the state where the said crimes shall have been committed. But when not committed within any state, the trial shall be at such place or places as the Congress may by law have directed. Section 3. Treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them, or in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort. No person shall be convicted of treason unless on the testimony of two witnesses to the same overt act, or on confession in open court. The Congress shall have power to declare the punishment of treason, but no attainer of treason shall work corruption of blood or forfeiture except during the life of the person attainted. Okay, anybody want to talk about Article 3?
What does blood mean?
Corruption of blood. Shall work corruption of blood. That is corruption of blood. Oh, wait. This one says the doctrine in English common law that someone attained of felony or treason has corrupt blood, so they cannot inherit property or have legal heirs. Okay, Article 4, Section 1. Full faith and credit shall be given in each state to the public acts, records, and judicial proceedings of every other state, and the Congress may by general laws prescribe the manner in which such acts, records, and proceedings shall be provided or approved, and the effect thereof. Section 2. The citizens of each state shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities of citizens of the several states. A person charged in any state with treason, felony, or other crime, who shall flee from justice and be found in another state, shall, on demand of the executive authority of the state from which he fled, be delivered up to be removed to the state having jurisdiction of the crime. No person held to service or labor in one state under the laws thereof, escaping into another, shall, in consequence of any law or regulation therein, be discharged from such service or labor, but shall be delivered up on claim of the party to whom such service or labor may be due. Section 3. New states may be admitted by the Congress into this Union, but no new state shall be formed or erected within the jurisdiction of any other state, nor any state be formed by the junction of two or more states, or parts of states, without the consent of the legislations of the states concerned as well as of the Congress. The Congress shall have power to dispose of and make all needful rules and regulations respecting the territory or other property belonging to the United States, and nothing in this Constitution shall be so construed as to prejudice any claims of the United States or of any particular state. Section 4. The United States shall guarantee to every state in this Union a republican form of government, and shall protect each of them against invasion, and on application of the legislator or of the executive when the legislator cannot be convened, against domestic violence. Article 5. The Congress, wherever 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to this Constitution, or, on the application of the legislators of 2/3 of the several states, shall call a convention for proposing amendments, which, in either case, shall be valid to all intents and purposes, as part of this Constitution, when ratified by the legislatures of 3/4 of the several states, or by conventions in 3/4 thereof, as the one or the other mode of ratification may be proposed by the Congress, provided that no amendment which may be made prior to the year 1808 shall in any manner affect the first and fourth clauses in the 9th section of the first article, and that no state without its consent shall be deprived of its equal suffrage in the Senate. Okay. Article 6. All debts contracted and engagements entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be as valid against the United States under this Constitution and under the Confederation. This Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made, or which shall be made, under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land. And the judges in every state shall be bound thereby anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. The senators and representatives before mentioned, and the members of the several state legislatures, and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution. But no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States. Article 7. The ratification of the conventions of 9 states shall be sufficient for the establishment of this Constitution between the states so ratifying the same. Okay. What? Okay, so page 17. Okay, it just says, done in convention by the ununanimous consent of the states, present the 17th day of September in the year of our Lord, 1787, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 12th, in witness whereof we have hereunto subscribed our names. And that's George Washington, President and Deputy of Virginia. Off to the side, it says the word "the" being interlined between the 7th and 8th lines of the first page. The word 30 being partly written on an azure in the 15th line of the first page. The words "is tried" being interlined between. Okay, I don't even know what that means. But, okay, you've got Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, and all the representatives with their signatures. And looks like William Jackson was the secretary at that time.
Many of those that signed were attorneys and esquires.
Yep.
And they were working for the crown.
Yep. And they had connections to the crown, and I mean, they literally ignored that whole section where it says, you know, you can't take an office if you've had any kind of gift. You've been gifted anything by the crown or foreign country.
Well, titles of nobility, which titles of nobility include saying "Your Honor."
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And the messy thing is that it says no. This is Article 13 that's omitted now and got lost during the War of 1812.
Yep.
When they burned down the White House and all that. But it says in there that no one should take a title of nobility unless authorized by Congress.
Yep.
So is that what they're doing, authorizing it?
That's what I'm guessing. That maybe I would like to know where they authorized it, though. I'd like to see the paper that they had signed that said it was okay for these titles of nobility to take office, because I have yet to see that.
It would be interesting to go back through what we read and point out all the different spellings of citizen and states. When it says United States and the several states. But from before 1871, all the citizens were capitalized.
Yeah.
As a proper noun.
Exactly.
So after practicing this, when anybody asks if you're a citizen, I can't find any consistent definitions and I'm just going to say I'm among the citizenry of the continental, the United States of America. Because it seems like a trap every time. A citizen is the same thing as subject, if you ask me.
Yes. Yes. Pretty much. They definitely turned us into that. It wasn't like that in the beginning because everybody was considered, all the citizens were considered sovereign.
But look at all of the references to person in here. This whole thing is set up. It's all set up for commerce from the beginning.
Yes. Well, yeah. I mean, that's how they got control of all the corporations, so they could tax the corporations to fund the government. Let's see.
Well, Article 6 is my favorite. And the reason it is because it says, this Constitution and the laws of the United States which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made. So everything preceding this has to be honored, including the Northwest Ordinance and the Articles of Confederation.
Which is why Pastor always says, like, focus on the Northwest Ordinance instead of the Constitution.
Does this analyze, or are we, is that afterwards?
No,
yeah.
It's after.
Okay. You're doing great.
Okay, now we're on page 18. So, in Convention Monday, September 17th, 1787, present the states of New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Mr. Hamilton from New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. Resolved that the preceding Constitution be laid before the United States in Congress assembled, and that it is the opinion of this convention that it should afterwards be subjected to a convention of delegates chosen in each state by the people thereof under the recommendation of its legislature for their assent and ratification, and that each convention assenting to and ratifying the same should give notice thereof to the United States in Congress assembled. Resolved that it is the opinion of this convention that as soon as the conventions of 9 states shall be ratified this Constitution, the United States in Congress assembled should fix a day on which electors should be appointed by the states which shall have ratified the same, and a day on which the electors should assemble to vote for the president, and the time and place for commencing proceedings under this Constitution. That after such publication the electors should be appointed, and the senators and representatives elected. That the electors should meet on the day fixed for the election of the president, and should transmit their votes certified, signed, sealed, and directed, as the Constitution requires, to the Secretary of the United States in Congress assembled. That the senators and representatives should convey at the time and place assigned. That the senators should appoint a president of the Senate for the sole purpose of receiving, opening, and counting the votes for president, and that after he shall be chosen, the Congress, together with the president, should, without delay, proceed to execute this Constitution. By the unanimous order of the convention, George Washington, President, W. Jackson, Secretary. Okay, now we're going into the amendments of the Constitution of the United States of America. Hold on. I just want to get to the point where they're doing the analysis. I want to scroll up a little bit.
So this is amendments to the Constitution of the United States of America, all caps, not the
Yes.
United States. This is completely different.
This is it's capital T, the, capital U, United, capital S, States of the lowercase, capital A, America.
Okay, mine says amendments to the Constitution of the United States of America. It's all caps. So yours is upper
So if
lower?
you go Article 10, where is it? I think it's Article 1. Where did it go? Let's see. So private nobody had said, was it? Trying to think here. Hold on. Let me open this. So Article 1, Section 1. Oh, this was for the Articles of Confederation. Okay. Yeah, so the Articles of Confederation is where it had it written with capital T, the United States. Of was lowercase. There was no that. I don't know why I put that in there.
Yeah, no,
So,
I understand. That's why I'm bringing it up. That the style of this confederacy shall be the United States of America, upper lowercase. But what you're about to read is all uppercase.
for the amendments, you mean?
Yeah, it's like another. It's a whole nother entity.
Yeah. Let's see.
It's not the United. It's not United States. It's the United States of America, all caps.
Let me see. What did it say in the beginning? I'm just wondering if well, they did it here too for the Constitution of the United States. It's in all caps. But if you go into the document, they don't all caps it. With the sections and the articles, they don't all caps it. So same thing here. This is just, they all capsed everything. They did amendments to the Constitution of the United States of America. It's all caps. But I think that's just because it's a title page.
Okay.
Now in the amendments, I keep an eye out for that as I'm reading. So if it says the United States of America, keep an eye out for when I'm reading to see if they capitalize the first letter on that or not. Okay, so we're going into page 21. So articles in addition to an amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America proposed by Congress and ratified by the several states pursuant to the 5th article of the original Constitution. So Amendment 1. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances.
Question.
Yes.
What is the original Constitution?
Interesting that you say that, because they used to have the actual original where they had everybody's signature at the Library of Congress, but I could have sworn that they removed that so people couldn't see it anymore. Did they show it when you guys went to the Library of Congress? Was it there? Do you remember?
What?
The Constitution of the United States?
I don't think so.
Because I could have sworn I heard.
Was it the Library of Congress?
Yeah, the Library of
Yeah.
Congress, because you guys went there and I didn't.
I remember seeing something. I don't know.
Okay. Because I could have sworn that they removed the original Constitution.
Yeah, I don't know if it was original or...
Because they used to have it out there for people to look at.
Yeah, I remember seeing something, but I don't know if it was the original already. I have that picture.
All right. So, Amendment 2 is a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So, yeah, I need to look into this whole militia stuff because it's almost like our government is actively making it difficult to create any type of militia. I mean, heck, they don't even want us having our own personal guns. All right, Amendment 3. No soldier shall, in the time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. I also have a question about, didn't it say before that you can't have a army actively set up in the time of peace, that you're only supposed to do it in the time of war? I mean, we've got military all over the place that is actively doing stuff.
Well, now in all these amendments, the person is lowercase p. When everything you read prior to getting into the amendments, it was all uppercase p.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't just not spell things. They took it very serious. It all means something.
Wait, where do you see the word? Oh, down here, in Amendment 4. Okay. Amendment 4 is the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against reasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath and affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Before, when they were saying persons, they were talking about an office. So I wonder if that's the difference. So an office title, P person, would be capital, and a citizen person would be lowercase, maybe. Amendment 5, no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against itself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. So interesting, speaking about all of these Jan 6er people, they're being held without a grand jury. And I'm wondering if they're able to get away with that because of the Trading with Enemies Act. And technically, we're still at war.
I think it's because they're U.S. citizens and they fall under Article 2, Section 8, Clause 17. And until you eliminate all those minimum contacts, you're under their jurisdiction. So you don't have any rights, civil rights.
Oh, you know what? I could probably do share screen on this one because all right, I'm going to share the screen on this. I forgot because I can't share screen and read with you guys and record it and upload it to YouTube for the Art of Passing the Bucks because it's a copyright thing. But with this, I'll make it visible for everybody to see. Okay, so where are we at? Amendment 6. Wait, did I already read that? In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall... No, I didn't. Amendment 6 is, in all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. Got Amendment 7. In suits at common law, where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law. Amendment 8. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. They broke that one a whole bunch of times. Amendment 9. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. Amendment 10. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. What? Okay, does anybody know what that means? The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. All right, I don't even know what that one means. Amendment 11. The judicial power of the United States shall not be construed to extend to any suit in law or equity commenced or prosecuted against one of the United States by citizens of another state, capital citizen, or by capital citizens or capital subjects of any foreign state. Interesting. Amendment 12. The electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for president and vice president, one of whom at least shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves. They shall name in their ballots the person voted for as president, and in distinct ballots the person voted for as vice president, and they shall make distinct lists of all persons voted for as president and of all persons voted for as vice president, and of the number of votes for each, which list they shall sign and certify and transmit sealed to the seat of the government of the United States, directed to the President of the Senate. The President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and House of Representatives, open all the certificates, and the votes shall then be counted. The person having the greatest number of votes for president shall be the president. If such number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed, and if no person have such majority, then from the persons having the highest numbers not exceeding 3 On the list of those voted for as president, the House of Representatives shall choose immediately by ballot the president, but in choosing the president, the votes shall be taken by states. The representation from each state having one vote, a quorum for this purpose shall consist of members from 2/3 of the states, and a majority of all the states shall be necessary to a choice. And if the House of the Representatives shall not choose a president, wherein the right of choice shall devolve upon them before the 4th day of March next following, then the vice president shall act as president, as in case of the death or other constitutional disability of the president. The person having the greatest number of votes as vice president shall be the vice president, if such number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed, and if no person have a majority, then from the 2 highest numbers on the list, the Senate shall choose the vice president. A quorum for the purpose shall consist of 2/3 of the whole number of senators, and a majority of the whole number shall be necessary to a choice, but no person constitutionally ineligible to the office of president shall be eligible to that of vice president of the United States. Isn't this just regurgitating what it said in the article? I don't see anything different in that. That's weird.
You had asked a question about, I don't remember what number it was, but that it was reserving things not directly given to the United States is reserved for the individual states. I guess that was Amendment 6, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states are reserved for the states. And I was kind of thinking about that, and I think that is an example that just was recent, the big hoopla with a Roe v. Wade. That was like a whole national thing. And the Supreme Court said, hey, it's not us, it's a state issue. Yeah. So they took that back and gave that to the states. I think that's an example of what they were trying to say there.
Okay. Okay.
So I don't know if that helps at least a little bit, but that's kind of like a modern example of something that the government usurped that belonged to the states, and it was not delegated to them.
All right, good. I like it. Okay, here's the controversial Amendment 13. Section 1, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime, whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. So I want to show you guys something. Where is it? I'm gonna show you this. Okay, can you guys see that? Let's see if I can expand it. Can you guys see that?
A little bit.
Yes.
Article 13. Is that what we've been told? Here is a copy of an old 17, I think it's like a 1700. Oh, it was 1825. This was printed in 1825. Says Article 13, if any citizen of the United States shall accept, claim, receive, or retain any title of nobility or honor, or shall, without the consent of Congress, accept or retain any present, pension, office, or emulation or emulant of any kind whatever from any emperor, king, prince, or foreign power, such person shall cease to be a citizen of the United States and shall be incapable of holding any office of trust or profit under them or either of them. So that was our original 13th Amendment.
The
And
key word
they got,
there, trust,
ah,
office of trust.
yeah. So like you were saying, Deepan, that was the correct 13th Amendment. And this guy, David Dodge, was in the Belfast Library in the archives of Maine looking for some evidence for this government corruption thing, and he found this. And it's one of the oldest
Can
authentic.
you throw that in the chat?
Yeah, I can. And so, as you were saying, because I did like this whole, wait, where did it go? I did this whole kind of timeline of what exactly happened. And so it went in 1810 to 1812, the 13th Amendment was ratified by 12 of the 14 states. However, the Constitution requires 3/4 of the states to ratify before officially being ratified. However, before they could get an answer, the War of 1812 broke out, and on August 1814, the British burned down the Capitol, the Treasury, and the Library of Congress. Isn't that convenient? Unfortunately, the research to obtain the answer regarding the ratification was thrown on the back burner. So 4 years later, Congress asked for a resolution of the ratification. President Monroe sends a letter to Secretary of State Adams asking if a 13th state had ratified it. Adams sent a letter to the governors of Virginia and Connecticut asking if they had ratified it, as New York, Rhode Island, and South Carolina had rejected it. Adams sent a letter to the House requesting a resolution to this question, but there was no letter from Adams to the president with a response. Turns out they found a ratified amendment it turns out later on, like in I'd say the 90s, I think, they found the ratified amendment for Connecticut and Virginia in, 2012. So they actually found it, which the 13th Amendment should have been changed, but they didn't. They tried to squash that find. So then in 1849, Virginia wanted to revise the 1819 Civil Code of Virginia. So they asked the current Secretary of State Clayton to confirm if the 13th Amendment was ever ratified or if it passed by mistake. And the Secretary concluded it had not been ratified based solely on the letter that Adams sent to the House of Representatives in 1818. Yeah, something happened between 1818 and 1819 because hundreds of copies of the newly ratified 13th Amendment were printed and handed out. Yet, even with Clayton's opinion on the matter, they continued to print the Constitution with the original 13th Amendment for another 11 years. So then, all of a sudden, you get 1860, Congress comes up with a newly revised 13th Amendment, which would keep the federal government out of states' laws, thus removing the original 13th Amendment from history. However, during December 1860, South Carolina seceded from the Union, which triggered the onset of the Civil War. Lincoln was inaugurated on January of 1861, signed the new 13th Amendment into law, stating that no amendment shall be made to the Constitution which will authorize or give to Congress the power to abolish or interfere within any state with the domestic institutions thereof, including that of persons held to labor or service by the laws of the state. And that was actually the first time a president signed an amendment into law. However, the Civil War broke out. Lincoln signed the amendment, which allowed states to make their own laws without federal interference, even for slavery. Now, this whole Civil War was predicated on, quote, slavery, but he just said, look, I'll go ahead and I'll make it so, you can still have your slavery. But it ended up being that it never happened because he got shot and died. But Lincoln was a lawyer with the bar and brought in the first taxation upon the people. It is said that Lincoln was beholden to the bankers. He also arrested people who disagreed with him, placed the armies at the homes of judges when passing certain laws. So Lincoln was not a real good guy. And then
the South wanted to succeed mostly
secede.
because they didn't want the debt. They didn't want the debt. And
Yeah,
they're like,
exactly.
we're leaving.
Yes. And that's why the
And they're
South
like,
was
no,
like,
no, you're racist.
yeah. Yeah. And he's like, well, wait. We'll give you your slaves. You can keep your slaves. And they were like, no, I don't want your debt. And so that's why they went into civil war.
Did it
So-
even have anything to do with slavery? I'm under the impression it had to do with the secession and the taxes.
Oh, it had to do with the secession. And yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Just to
You're
make
like,
sure.
federal government, I see where you're going with all this, and I'm not down with it. And a big chunk of it was that, they were going to free, quote, make the slaves citizens, like regular citizens. But it was a contention because they're like, no, you're gonna try to free our slaves, and that we're getting a lot of money from this free slave labor. So that's why Lincoln came over the top with this, compromise. Okay, fine, you can keep your slaves, just don't secede. And they're like, no, because that obviously wasn't a huge factor. It was the fact that they were going to be laden with all this debt, and that they were going to also be beholden. Like the federal government would come over and tell them what to do, and they're like, no, I don't think so. So the powers that be took advantage of the tumultuous war and officially removed the original 13th Amendment in 1865. Then they destroyed the amendment Congress had ratified with Lincoln's approval, and they proposed a new 13th Amendment that prohibited slavery. And that's when they changed the narrative of the war. And so when you did an amendment or you created a new amendment, it took a long time, like a good year to 2 years, because, all the representatives had to go back to their respective states. They had to do a vote. This took a lot of time, right? And then they had to come back to Congress and then vote on it. Okay. So you see that Lee surrendered on April 9th. Lincoln was assassinated on April 14th. And then December 1865, the new 13th Amendment was ratified, which they loudly proclaimed themselves heroes for prohibiting involuntary slavery, while saying nothing about the part that they, removed about surrendering states' rights to federal government and all that kind of good stuff. Then the bankers are the ones who paid for these wars. So they funded the South side, and they also funded Lincoln's side. And it didn't matter because they were going to be winners either way, because you destroy buildings, you have to rebuild after a war. And no matter what side lost or won, both sides would have to pay back their debt. And so it would make them beholden to them. And so this caused chaos and destruction, purposely going after the Library of Congress and other places that held original documentation so they could rewrite our history. Once they rid themselves of the original 13th Amendment, that opened the door to put their lawyers into place. They could then write codes, regulations, statutes, amendments, using ambiguous, evasive language to trick us. But basically, what they did, and I know I put it in here somewhere, but it literally was ratified so freaking quick because they wrote it, I want to say, like before Lincoln was shot, okay? And then it was passed by Congress January 31st, 1865, and then ratified December 6th, 1865. So within the same year, it was passed and ratified. And that is unheard of. And they did the same thing with the 14th Amendment as well. They shoved that through. And everybody says that it's just policy because they never legally ratified it.
And how many members of Congress are not lawyers?
Oh,
Ever since then.
all of them are, or some kind of, or they were past, what was it? Past bankers, or they're all Freemasons, and nobody is ever chosen. We don't choose, we don't vote for our presidents. I mean, we do vote, but they don't count.
We don't select them.
We don't select them. Yeah, thank you. Because everybody up to vote. Go ahead, Joe.
I'm sorry. Okay, so the Lincoln situation, I'm a little confused on it because I keep hearing opposing views on him. Good guy, bad guy. I understand the war situation, but isn't he the one that brought back the greenbacks and was getting rid of the debt and us borrowing money? He was huge in that, I thought. I'm pretty sure, but so it's a confusion for me, and I don't know. I just like some more insight on that.
Yeah, I did. I'm not sure if my notes covered him or not, because I did do kind of a background on him. And I do remember that he didn't like the bankers necessarily. And was it after he died or something that we ended up paying off a lot of our debts? Crap. I'm going to have to look into that and get back to you, because I remember doing kind of a deep dive with his stuff. I know he definitely did not like the bankers, but all these guys, there's good and bad to all of them. And I think he ended up trying to remove the international banking system, which is, I think, why they executed him. But he played dirty too. But I guess, it's to be in that type of position, you've got to play dirty, and you can't be a good guy all the time if you want to get stuff done. So, I mean, but I do know he used the army to his benefit. And when he was passing things, I remember them saying that he would actually send because there was a couple of voters that didn't agree with what he was doing, or a couple of judges that didn't agree with something he was doing. And they basically held these judges in their homes. He sent the military, the army there to basically house arrest them while this vote was going on. I don't exactly know what the vote was about, but yeah, it wasn't, he was a little good and bad with both, but he wanted the whole federal government thing. He wanted to, he was a federalist. So, he wanted the control, and he didn't like the bankers, but he did want the control. So he was still, I don't know. these guys play both good and bad. And so, the whole Albert Pike thing, when the people need a hero, we will supply them one. But they're all kind of paid off. So that's why I don't trust anyone in government anymore.
Well, also, what's the saying? He who wins the war writes the history.
Yep.
So what do we, I mean, we can read these books. What's really the truth?
Right. And he who counts the vote, it doesn't matter who votes, it's he who counts the vote that matters. Because you can always change what the vote is, as long as you've got the people who count the vote in your pocket.
Does the vote really matter anyway?
No, the vote doesn't matter.
We're not selecting our guys or people. We're being forced to elect for people we don't even, right, wrong, or indifferent. I think it's theater.
Yeah, the fact that all of the presidents, except for one, were related, hello, what does that tell you? Okay, Section 2, Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. So that was under the 13th Amendment. And by the way, you guys probably already know this, but the fake one that they gave us, this fake amendment, says neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime, wherever the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. So you've got neither slavery or involuntary servitude, but there's something that's left out, which is voluntary servitude. And you need to be subject to their jurisdiction. So this is where they started to set up a different type of citizen, right here and on the 14th Amendment. So 14th Amendment, you'll see Section 1 says all persons born or naturalized in the United States, and this is very important, this and right here, subject to the jurisdiction thereof, are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. So you have to be born or naturalized and subject to their jurisdiction. And by there, they mean federal jurisdiction. So you've got, and then no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of laws. So not only did they create a new citizen, they created a new jurisdiction, and they created new rights. This is where they started to, they were setting the stage up to create the civil rights, because what they did with, quote, freeing the slaves is they said, hey, Black slaves, so if you consider yourself, if you want to be a citizen of the United States, then you have to do an oath or affirmation of loyalty to the federal government. And what we'll do is if your state government comes after you, we'll protect you. And we're going to give you civil rights. So we're going to take away the God-given rights and give you man-made rights. So they first did it with the Black slaves, and actually any slave, whether it be, Irish slave, Black slave, African slave, whatever. If you were a slave, then they were like, hey, we will free you and we will protect you from your state, but you need to do your oath of fealty to us. And then we will call you United States citizens, because before they were just state citizens. And they weren't subject to the.
Dawn, it sounds like there's two types of citizens. Can you read that 14th Amendment again?
So all persons born or naturalized in the United States, so those are prerequisites, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof of the United States, are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. So you've got the citizen of the United States and the state citizen. So that's how they entrapped us.
Lowercase persons also to note.
There you go.
And lowercase citizen. This is where lowercase citizen started. Everything before this was an uppercase citizen.
Good catch. There you go.
So is the lowercase citizen the federal government,
Yes.
federal citizen, and then the uppercase citizen is the state citizen?
That's what I see. And this is where they made us all slaves. By freeing the slaves, they entrapped those into another slavery. And then they slowly but surely made the white man and the black man and, the naturalized people coming over to want to be, quote, free citizens. That's where they entrapped all of us through the birth certificate and the social.
So is that the voluntary?
Yep,
There's
that's the
involuntary.
voluntary.
That's the voluntary slavery. Okay, that makes sense.
Yep, because you're calling yourself a United States citizen, so you're volunteering into that slavery. And you're giving up God-given rights that they state in the Declaration of Independence for man-made civil rights, which are just privileges that man gave you, so man can take them away. Just like God gave you certain rights that God can take away at any point. So it says, Section 2, representatives shall be apportioned. Why can I not say this word, guys? Help. Apportioned. Okay, thank you. Representatives shall be apportioned among the several states according to their respective numbers, counting the whole number of persons in each state, including Indians not taxed, but when the right to vote at any election for the choice of electors for president and vice president of the United States, representatives in Congress, and executive and judicial officers of a state, or the members of the legislature thereof, is denied to any of the male inhabitants of such state being 21 years of age and citizens of the United States, or in any way abridged except for participation in rebellion or other crime, the basis of representation therein shall be reduced in the proportion which the number of such male citizens shall bear to the whole number of male citizens 21 years of age in such state. Section 3, no person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state, who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States or as a member of any state legislature or as an executive or judicial officer of any state to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. But Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each house, remove such disability. Section 4, the validity of the public debt of the United States authorized by law, including debts incurred for payment of pension and bounties for service in suppressing insurrection or rebellion, shall not be questioned, but neither the United States nor any state shall assume or pay any debt or obligation incurred in aid of insurrection or rebellion against the United States, or any claim for the loss of emancipation of any slave, but all such debts, obligations, and claims shall be held illegal and void. Section 5.
This is why they put for insurrection so hard, because under this, they are U.S. citizens and they're in their jurisdiction, and they classify it as an insurrection, and that's why J6ers are getting treated the way they are.
Good point.
Because they're U.S. citizens.
What's the definition of insurrection?
Well, that's a good question,
I
because
would presume that Congress can make any definition that they want, because what we read earlier, they can do. They've got plenipotentiary power, which they're God. They're like God when it comes to U.S. citizens. When you give up your God-given rights for man-made rights, they are God now.
That's a really good way of looking at it. I never thought of it like that.
Yep.
You want to hear Black's Law Dictionary for insurrection?
Sure. Give it to me.
A rebellion or rising of citizens or subjects in resistance to their government. Insurrection consists in any combined resistance to the lawful authority of the state, with intent to cause the denial thereof when the same is manifested or intended to be manifested by acts of violence. It is a federal crime to incite, assist, or engage in a rebellion or insurrection against the United States. And that was it.
And I find it funny because in the Declaration of Independence, it says when the government starts, what does it say? When the government, oh man, where is it? About, saying we have a right, we have a duty to take down the, yeah, which is like,
what about the redress of grievances?
Yeah.
Well, that's what everybody's got wrong, is they don't have these rights they think they do when they're a U.S. citizen. They don't have these rights.
Yeah.
They have the rights dictated by Congress, who is their God. And as long as they got rid of that 13th Amendment, they can keep modifying the rules to keep them in power.
Yeah, because it says that whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people, capital P, to alter or to abolish it and to institute a new government. So, everyone thinks of it as, we have to come together as a whole to overthrow, or not overthrow, but to, what they say, to alter or abolish it. So we can actually come individually and alter it. If they're coming against us, then we have the right to alter or abolish their form of government by writing our own sort of constitution.
Yeah, this is in John Locke's Law of Nations, which almost every nation has formed their nation off the Law of Nations.
Yep.
And all you need to do is be in social compact with two or more, just like the Bible says, when there's two or more. That's why all of the witnesses, you need two witnesses. When you're in two or more you create a social compact, which is a constitution, and then a body politic from that, and you literally can have your own. Collectively, you're sovereign within that. No one is an individual sovereign. You have to be in a body to be sovereign. But that's how you do it. And
Yeah,
then once you get amassed so many, there are guidelines for this. Once you amass so many, then you will be recognized by the de facto as having your own government. But you got to be peaceful.
yeah. You can't come at them all angry and like want to take them down. You can't, because they'll label you as an insurrection or rebellion, and you're like, no, I'm good. Like, but here's my contract. Here's what I see are my God-given rights, and I'm not giving it up for some man-made rights, because you are not my God. And that's what they want to be. They want to take the place of God.
You made the key term there was contract, and that's what the Constitution is, and that's what a social compact is a contract, and that is protected and can't be changed by anyone. Is your right to contract. So it's just really it's really fascinating how I had to just sit here and say it's my fault. I let this happen.
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty much at fault for sleeping on the job.
Well, doesn't the Bible also tell you to come out of her, my people?
Yep.
Get rid of those contracts, right?
And it says my people will be destroyed for lack of knowledge too. Okay, where did I leave off? Did I read this one? I think I did. I think I read section 3, right? Maybe not. Or maybe I did. Okay, I think I did. Let's go to section 4. The validity of the public debt of the United States authorized by law, including debts incurred for payments of pensions and... Oh, no, I did read that one. Insurrection. Yeah, but neither the United States...
As soon as you started reading the amendments, when we started with the capital, the United States of America, every single person and citizen has been lowercase.
Yep. Citizens. Let's do before.
Okay, I have a question. It's confusing to me. I get what they're doing, but how does a capital versus a lowercase change the whole word?
Well,
because words have many meanings.
You would have to get I'll tell you which, like a Harbrace College Handbook will explain that. Hans P. Guth Concise English Handbook will explain that. But it's basically denoting a proper noun, which it just is elementary stuff that they taught back in the 1800s. But once the Rockefellers took over in 1910, they commandeered our curriculum, and the federal government's like, yeah, we'll give you this money, but you have to teach what we say to teach. Okay. And they stopped teaching us how important the capital letter was.
Thank you very much for that. That is very enlightening.
Something else that I noticed in the first 10 amendments, let's say 12, they didn't say anything about that, excessive bail. Whenever they talked about us, citizens, in the amendments, the first, 10 or whatever, where they talked about actual people, or the citizens, they always said people, the right of the people. No person. Says anything about people in here? No.
Hey, stop right there. Go back up to, well, okay, see Amendment 7. See how it says in suits at common law?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's capital suits is different than a lowercase suits. So really, we just have to go back and say, what is the proper use of grammar? This is why all those syntax grammar things are so effective, because all of this etymology and proper use of grammar is very precise.
Yeah, you even have Amendment 9, by the people. It isn't until the 12th amendment or the 13th Amendment where they start. Oh, sorry, the 14th. Yeah, it isn't until the 14th Amendment where they start bringing in citizens of the United States. Before, we were people or persons. But here, and from this point on, it seems as though they keep referring to everyone as citizens of the United States. And it's lowercase. Citizen, the right of citizens of the United States.
Yeah, before that, we would have been the people or one of the people of the several states.
Yep. Isn't
And
that
now, after 1865, we're now citizens of the United States.
All right, I have another question here.
Yeah,
So the Constitution is considered a contract, right?
Yes.
Okay, so how do we get ourselves out from under this contract? Meaning, it's just another thing we've signed up for. And how did we sign up for it? I'm just curious. I'm not.
Did you swear an oath? Did you ever swear an oath to it?
I'm not sure. I have to think about that. Obviously, I'm under
Well,
it.
if you,
Well,
no,
first
you're
of
not.
all, the Constitution isn't the problem. It's not the Constitution that's the problem. The problem is how they switched our rights from God-given rights to man-made civil rights. And they did that through the use of making everybody a citizen of the United States and beholden to the federal government over their own state, over their own God, over everything. And
They didn't make anybody.
problem.
We voluntarily did it.
Right. I agree with that. I think we volunteered some way, somehow.
We absolutely volunteered, but there was definitely
To the
trickery and
Constitution.
deception.
I had heard, and I don't know if this is true or not, but on so much of the paperwork that you have to fill out, they always ask you, are you a citizen of the United States? And you have to check yes or no. So when you check yes, you're contracting at that point.
Correct. But it's under a false presumption that you are a United States citizen, because you aren't.
Yeah, but ignorance of the law is no excuse.
No, right. So you contract yourself into that label. But the problem is they don't leave you any other choice to go, well, I don't fit a naturalized person, I don't fit an alien, I don't fit this. They've taken away your ability to mark yourself correctly.
Non-resident alien. You're a non-resident to the federal government, and you're alien to their jurisdiction. Just a thought.
No, I mean, that can be. Go ahead, Deepan.
or just check nothing. Just leave it blank.
Yeah. I don't want to
Or
pigeonhole into
use
something.
your own forms.
But here's the thing. Everything in public commerce, you've got to be a U.S. citizen to engage. That's how they've kind of forced your hand.
Unless we do
You
the
are
trust,
not a US
right?
citizen. You're not a U.S. citizen. Your person is.
Right. That's another thing. Yes. So
That is your tool to operate within this system
yeah, because you do have
through
to
the
be
law.
a fiction to operate in this system. In the system of commerce, you've got to figure out what your agent is, and the fact that the name is not you. They basically took control of the name through the birth certificate. So you've got to relearn what it is to be in the private, and you also have to learn who you are as the fictional character. So you can move about in the public in knowing how to divide your free man from the entity that they've created through this U.S. citizenship. And therein lies the trick. Okay, let me just read the rest. Okay, let me just do Amendment 15. Section 1, the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. Section 2, the Congress shall have the power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. Amendment 16, the Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derived without apportionment among the several states. It took my brain a second. And without regard to any census or enumeration. So everything from the 13th Amendment on is policy. These were not correctly ratified. I'd really like to understand why they're being seen as policy and not being correctly ratified. And I don't know if it had to do with the lack of representation for the public, like the amount of numbers, because we have a very low representation for the people in the world, or in the people in these 50 states. There should be a lot
I did
more.
math. There should be 11,000 members of Congress.
Yeah. But
Not
the problem is the
435.
Constitution never said, it just said you cannot have less than this. It never said you have to have proper representation for every, 30,000, 60,000 people. It never says that in the Constitution. And that's how I think that they can get away with it. But we're not being properly represented. And it's a lot harder to bribe, like, 11,000 representatives than it is to bribe. I don't know, how many do we have now? 100?
435.
Yeah. So, we need at least double the representation in Congress, but they're never going to do that. And this whole amendment, this Amendment 16 happened in the 1940s, 30s. somewhere around there, because I remember seeing an old movie one time where they were talking about how this amendment was up for vote and how they were saying, oh, they'll never lay tax to income. So that's relatively new amendment.
Speaking of that, when it says from income, go back.
Collect
Congress
tax
should have a shot.
funds.
Okay, so this is the thing. Like, we have always thought what we make is income, but it's not. It's a workman is worthy of his hire. So
Labor.
whenever you agree to do work for, that is your money. It's not income. The only income, from what I understand, comes from profit. So, for instance, if Don, we hire you for $100 to read this tonight, and you read it for $100, you make that. That is not income. But if we say, hey, Dawn, you did such a great job, we're going to give you 50 extra bucks, that is profit, which is you would have to pay taxes on. So we've been paying taxes on money that we never had to our entire existence. We did it voluntarily.
Mm-hmm. Although I think the income might be something like stocks, like making a profit off of that.
Whatever source derived right
Yeah.
after that.
So are you saying that we're not allowed to make a profit without being taxed? I think we need to look up the word income.
I asked Social Security to define income, and they have not done it yet.
Right, so we might be misunderstanding that.
Okay, you want to hear blacks?
Yes.
Yes.
Income, the return in money from one's business, labor, or capital invested, gains, profits, salary, wages, etc. The gain derived from capital from labor or effort, or both combined, including profit or gain through sale or conversion of capital. Income is not a gain accruing to capital or of growth in the value of an investment, but is a gain, a profit, something of exchangeable value, proceeding from the property severed from the capital, however invested or employed, and coming in, being derived, that is, received or drawn by the recipient for his separate use, benefit, and disposal. I mean, there might be a couple other different ones, but let's see here. If it's got anything else that would be pertinent. No, that's pretty much it.
Which black laws is that?
6th edition.
Okay, so my next question is, if it's income, and maybe I'm diverting from this discussion, but if it's fiat money, it's notes. How can it be income?
Yes, that.
There we go.
Yeah, there's many forms of ways to combat this. I mean, because I know I stopped volunteering to pay income tax a couple of years ago.
Have they pursued you on that?
Not yet. But I wrote them a letter. I gave them a heads up that I wasn't going to be paying any more income tax because I'm not a U.S. citizen.
I hadn't paid taxes in like 20 years. As long as you don't sign their paperwork, you got no contract with them.
Can you expand on that just a little bit? I'm not really sure what you mean by paperwork.
I mean, well, because most jobs they want you to fill out a W-4 or a W-8 or something like that whenever you hire, but you don't have to fill it out. And if you don't fill it out, then you got no contract with them. I've done that being self-employed. Like I went and got my business license, but I never did any IRS paperwork. I went and picked up all the paperwork, and they told me to fill out. I believe it was a W-4 at the time or a W-2, but I threw it in the trash can, and I never heard a word since.
That's why when you need to correct your record with the IRS, you do a revocation of election because you elected to pay. Doing exactly what Justin just said, you contracted with them.
And it's just a form, the revocation of election?
I don't know enough about it to advise or comment further, but that just came across that type of knowledge on this journey.
I've seen I've seen that floating around for a little over a year, and most people will get a reply back that says they need 60 more days to do something about their books with it. But it is, at least they got notice. Everything is about contract and notice.
I'm going to go ahead and stop this recording for now. Hang on.